Hello, and thank you for joining us for the Irish Angle, our weekly show looking back at all the things that happened in Irish racing, English racing, and even further afield. Not a major week in racing last week, but we've still got lots of things to go through. So I'm joined, as usual, by Emma Nagle and Johnny Ward, and we're going to have a chat about them all. Emma, Johnny, welcome to the show.
Hi, Vinny.
Now, start off. Curragh last Saturday, we had the Phoenix Stakes. Ger Lyons having a Group 1 winning filly. Good to see. Babouche, what did you make of that, Emma?
Yeah, she was really impressive, to be honest. Going into the race, I thought she'd have to step up a fair bit to beat Whistlejacket. Like, he was really impressive winning in Newmarket the time before. But in fairness, Ger Lyons, he's found two really, really good fillies this year, Babouche and Red Letter as well, who obviously broke her maiden at the Curragh a few weeks ago. She was second to Lake Victoria as well, who was a nice winner in Newmarket for Aidan on Saturday as well. So, yeah, a great season for the Ger Lyons yard. Which is really exciting filly. I think Ger won the Phoenix a few years ago with Shishkin. We didn't see him until he won the Guineas the following June. So hopefully we'll see Babouche a bit sooner than that. I think he was talking about giving her one more run, probably staying in sprinting trips this year. But you'd imagine she'll be a real contender for the Classics next year. Although there was a few kind of maiden winners there at the Curragh as well, who'll probably be right in that picture as well. So no, she was brilliant, I thought. Like Whistlejacket, maybe slightly disappointing, but I'd say he just made a better one on the day. I don't think you can make too many excuses for him.
Yeah. And what about that, Johnny? Some of the 2-year-olds were winning those maidens. It was like breeding porn for you, was it? Looking at the pedigrees.
I couldn't have put it better myself. In yeah, like it really was. And the comments I made last week about racing people not necessarily going racing to see the horses anymore, to see good quality horses. I think that's kind of vaguely true. But like if you rock up at Cork as I did when I was working the day Babouche won her maiden, you see her win first time out and what she's gone on to be. She's a sister to Zarinsk, who would have been a very good horse for Ger Lyons. And Kodiak is at this stage a 35 grand stallion. He's been an amazing stallion for what he was expected of him early on, but like you're not expecting him to get a superstar really. And Babouche to rock up here and take on Whistlejacket, who's been really well touted. He's been basically nearly odds on all his starts, and brush him aside really. Like, and maybe there wasn't an awful lot of depth for the Phoenix Stakes, but she's just so professional the way she goes about her business. I love the way she does that. If she can get a mile as a 3-year-old next year, you'd be looking at the Guineas. But they're on about like breeding porn. Some of the stallions and breeding and mares that were to the fore this weekend, and the form of the maiden that Ger's other good filly won in was sort of put to the test further at Newmarket. He has two very good fillies now, two very good 2-year-old fillies, and he says obviously his fillies are a lot better than his coals. But I felt the Curragh on Saturday. I couldn't go now, but I felt the Curragh was just fantastic to watch these younger horses, and some seriously good maidens, some seriously well-bred horses, and she was excellent, I thought. And I think the bubble has burst a little bit in Whistlejacket now.
Yeah, that wouldn't have completely burst for me now. Aidan is well able to bring them back, isn't he? It could be anything next year. Whistlejacket win the Guineas, the Derby, and the whole lot.
Anyway, he's still not had a classic winner as far as I remember. And I am interested in the No Name Ever project at Coolmore and Ballydoyle, because for me there haven't been enough of these really good horses to come from him to kind of justify the regard that he's held in. I don't know. I was a bit disappointed in him, to be honest with you.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, Justify. That's another one of theirs as well. You got them all in there. Anyway, looking back a little bit further in the week, we had Thursday in Leopardstown. Crystal Black. This has been some meteoric rise through the ranks, Emma, hasn't it? And now they're talking Melbourne Cup.
Yeah, it's a kind of remarkable enough story. I think Gerard Keane got him from Dermot Wells. I think at his first run for the Yard I think it was last March, about 18 months ago now, I suppose. Didn't win on his first start. I think he was off the mark actually on the handicap on Saturday's card this time last year, off the mark at 77. Fast forward 12 months' time, then he's winning a Group 3 Ballyroan in Leopardstown off a mark of 111. Royal Ascot winner as well on the way to the Melbourne Cup. Like, it's been summarised through the ranks, and the syndicate's actually quite interesting as well. Like, they're the Wear a Pink Ribbon syndicate. I think they were set up a few years ago, but like, they're no strangers to international success either. They had a filly with Willie Mullins there a few years ago, that True Self. Like, she was a fair globetrotter herself as well, didn't she? She won in Australia, she won it out in Riyadh, she won in the UK. I think she went to Hong Kong and stuff as well. So they seem to be lucky enough in finding these kind of international performers, and buying Crystal Black out of Dermot Wells at the time, like after I think he might have been rated in the 80s. Probably wouldn't be expecting to go to the Melbourne Cup in 12 months' time. So it's a brilliant story, and I think the celebrations in Ascot kind of got the whole place going, and they were the same again in Leopardstown, so you can kind of see what the winners mean to them. And yeah, it's a brilliant story for Jared Keane to be heading to the Melbourne Cup. I think they were saying there's talks. There was someone in Australia looking to buy into him, but I think the lads wanted to keep half for the Melbourne Cup. So it'll be interesting to see if he stays with Jared Keane for that. But yeah, it's been an incredible story, and it's great to see it. Like, I think he's only been beaten once since he got off the mark for the Keens. So yeah, it's been great training as well. Like, and like they had that true self with Willie, and obviously they can see the that a smaller trainer can produce it as well and get into the Melbourne Cup as well. So it's kind of a great story all around, I'd say.
Yeah, it's hard to know what they're going to do about the selling to the Australians, because when it comes to contenders for that Melbourne Cup, those Australians are willing to spend big 7-figure sums here to get a contender. So it'd be very hard to resist the offers, I'd say. And according to Jared Keane, there's been a few offers in and plenty of interest. What do you make of that, Johnny?
It's just been the story of the flat, I think, this summer, really, you know, and the horse having left Dermot Weld rated, sort of had gone from 88 to 83, and you'd imagine, oh, can I improve one from Dermot Wells? The horse had run 4 times for Dermot Weld in 2022 and hadn't managed to finish placed, and wasn't bought for huge money. Has gone out from 83 to 111, and I've made this point before. Like, it's people give out about the domination of certain yards and all of that. There are extremely good trainers out there in Ireland, and if you as an owner can, like, and this is one thing, whatever about the JP McManus operation, it's not for everyone, but he spreads these horses around, and it's massively important in that regard to spread the bounty around. And Jared Keane has shown this horse has improved massively since joining Jared Keane. There may be nothing to that. There may be the fact that he's just found the key to it, and maybe Dermot Weld has so many horses in training he can't focus on Crystal Black like Jared Keane has. Jared Keane has found massive improvement from this horse. 5 wins out of the last 6. It's an unbelievable. And what this does for a small trainer like him, and like Colin getting his best day pretty much at the races, riding a winner from Royal Ascot, this has been a great story for racing. And for me, this is far, far better than Ballydoyle having 20 winners. Jared Keane having a horse as good as this.
Yeah, we're talking about great stories for racing. What about Billy Bryson having his first winner in 51 years up and Downpatrick yesterday? I thought we should talk about that, not so much that aspect of it, which is absolutely incredible, and no doubt JP is sending the horse up to him as we speak. But basically, I've never seen anything like that bumper from a Stewart's Inquiry point of view. There's no question, if you've seen it, that Neil Galt, who rode the winner called Augusta George, the horse drifted across the track on him, and the main challenger was coming behind one of the Crawford ones, looking to win its race, and got balked. Your man came across the track up to the near side rail, all the way up the straight. Your man couldn't get through. There was 1.25 lengths in it at the finish. Stewart's Inquiry called. I have very little doubt that with a clear run, the second horse would have won, but obviously the Stewarts didn't change it. The rider, Neil Galt, he got 2 days for careless riding, but that was as much as they did. What did you make of that, Emma? Did you see it?
I saw it, yeah, and you were mentioning, I think, 51 years since his last winner, but they were fairly confident, back from 25s into 8s before the off, so they thought they might bridge the gap yesterday. Anyway, look, I'm not sure. You could kind of tell going into the straight. Look, they were fairly neck and neck, right? Downpatrick's kind of a windy old place, and you could tell that Augusta George, the winner, was hanging a bit. And Stephen Crawford was kind of stuck on his inside there. Look, I'd probably say that they didn't reverse it just because the winner was going away at the line, whereas the second horse was kind of going a bit more backwards. You'd say now, in fairness, maybe the interference kind of paused his momentum a bit, but like just looking at it with the bare eye, you'd say the winner was probably going away, so probably might have been a little bit harsh to demote him of the race. To be fair, now the rider got 2 days for careless riding. The horse was hanging quite badly. I thought he did a bit to keep him over, but I probably would have been a bit harsh, I think, to strip him of the race, because he was going away from the second, I thought, in the end. But yeah, it was kind of a tough one. It probably could have gone either way if different stewards weren't on the day.
I saw one him, and I saw one at Wexford lately. It was a Delaney horse, and Jack Kennedy was awarded the race, and I thought it was desperately harsh, because there was interference by both horses, and even though it was a short head, Gordon's horse won the race then. I thought that was very harsh. I don't know if the Delaney team was going to kind of look into that in the end, or maybe they were going to appeal. But I actually think, Vinny, in this instance, I think dramatic license probably just wasn't good enough. Now, he obviously was entitled to get closer, but I feel Augusta George was probably the best horse. But markets are really weird because, like, Felix Summers was obviously making up nearly 50% of the market. He was 6-5. He went off 2-1, bigger on the exchanges. But how in your right mind, if you rocked up at the races yesterday and Augusta George was only available at half the price he was this morning, when 25-1 looked a bad price, how would you back it from 11-1 into 8-1? So it's kind of hard to get your head around this. The trainer hasn't had a winner since Britain was in the war, pretty much, like, and you're just like, how would you keep backing it into 8-1? And then if you laid the horse, you're like, how did this win? Like, seriously. And if you laid Iggy Madden's horse in Galway, sometimes you're just like, it doesn't make any sense.
Even I can't remember his last winner, and that's saying a lot. Anyway, moving on to other bigger and better things. Joseph O'Brien, he was having, by my estimation anyway, a very poor season. Up to Galway, all of a sudden he started to hit the line right. Now he'd the Galway hurdle winner. He'd a big winner in Germany. Al Riffa winning a Group 1. That was a fair bit of placing there as well. He also had a big winner in Deauville with Curragh of the County. Ryan Moore rode that. So it's all turning a corner for Joseph. Looks like it could be a big second half of the season. What do you think of that, Emma?
Yeah, definitely. I suppose people were kind of criticising him there a few weeks ago, saying maybe he wasn't having as many big winners as he probably should be with the number of runners in the yard. But he seems to have turned the corner big time, like kind of like you said, a brilliant week in Galway. And then, like Al Riffa going to Germany, it was a strange one. I don't think many trainers would really think of going there. I think Kevin Blake's the race planner there, so it's probably one out of his book. It's kind of an unusual enough route, but nice to get another Group winner, one win out of him. I suppose, look, he's kind of a funny horse. Like the connections always seem to have kind of big faith in him the whole way through his career. Obviously, he won the national stakes as a 2-year-old. We haven't actually seen him an awful lot since, but I suppose that run behind City of Troy last time kind of showed a bit of spark, maybe that he was back to his best as he was as his 2-year-old self. And all roads seem to be going to the Arc now. And look, it's kind of hard to judge his prospects in the Arc off that race in Germany because, like no disrespect to the German trainers or horses, I don't know anything about them, so they could have been any kind of level. But he seems to be back in good health anyway. He won it easily, and Joseph, yeah, having a great time. And I thought the placing a Curragh of the County as well to win his Group 3 in Deauville. He had disappointed before that, so nice to get him off the mark there as well. And his horses couldn't be going better. You have to say.
Aidan as well. Just see Emma Aidan as a runner in Salisbury on Wednesday. He's bidden to get up to the 5 million mark, and so it's almost like they're following the Willie Mullins. Just run them in England now, and like Ryan Moore is riding this horse, so it is interesting. You can place your horse as well if you look for it.
Yeah, what's interesting with this flat season, the way it's gone now, like it starts in early March, or middle of March or whatever, you have the flat season starting. We're now in the middle of August. And yet it hasn't really hit top gear yet. Like there's so many big meetings internationally coming up, those opportunities, those top class horses. Like as you say, you mentioned the Arc, but we've got Breeders' Cup, we've Melbourne Cup, we've all sorts of campaigns being planned out for much later in the year than they ever were before.
That's kind of the good thing about the flat though, isn't it? Like in the National Hunt, like once we go into October now, everything is geared towards March, whereas the flat, like to be honest, I'm kind of getting more into it the last few years, but there's always something to look forward to. Like the Juddmonte International next week, you've got one of the best trios in training, the kind of most hype one. And then go on a few weeks' time, you've got the Arc and you've got the Breeders' Cup. It's kind of a nice spread of it, and it kind of makes it more enjoyable for the fans because not everything is geared around this 1 week in March. And if a horse doesn't get there, that's the end of their season. It's a lot more spread out, and although the flat obviously doesn't attract the same amount of fans, it's definitely a better model than the National Hunt, you'd have to say, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. But just looking at, we'll go to one other thing or a couple of other things from last week. One of them is worth a mention. I don't know where we go with it, but I wouldn't be that critical in my sense or myself around it. But Kieran Shoemark, he was getting a lot of flack for some of the riding that he was given to some of those Gosling horses. There was people talking in favour of him and against him on social media. He ended up losing the riding Inspiral, which ran in France at the weekend. Ryan Moore took up the ride, made no difference by all accounts. Same performance, different jockey. What do you make of this, Johnny, just generally about criticising jockeys for what they do? And it's obviously a very hard job they have, but there comes times when some of them do give horses bad rides, and it needs to be mentioned, I think, at the very least.
Yeah, like I brought this up with a person on a live show last year, and he reminded me that I'd called him a run-of-the-mill jockey. And ironically, what I was actually saying at the time, I don't really criticise jockeys. I don't feel like I'm qualified to do it. And it's funny, then a comment I made on this podcast was brought up, which I didn't even remember making. So I'm even less inclined to criticise jockeys now, but and the same jockey we get on grand, and he was absolutely entitled to call me out. That I generally don't call. It's not that I think punters and like journalists, whatever, we're entitled to call out jockeys, but I don't really feel qualified at the best times to do it, so I generally don't do that. But it's funny with Kieran Shoemark thing. I had 2 bets at Goodwood, and one of them was Whisper, who was running in a 1 Mile and 2 race, and Kieran Shoemark rode it, and it was an awful ride. Like, it really was an awful ride. And it was funny that this started coming up after us. I don't watch Kieran Shoemark day in, day out at all. And generally, I think jockeys dropped off horses is generally harsh. And I'm not inclined to do it. But the one experience I had of Kieran Shoemark this year, it was a ride that, like, he will absolutely cover himself in his hands and say, how did this happen? But so I don't see him day to day. But it's funny you mentioned I'm on the show today, and obviously the Inspiral stuff. Like, I think it's part of the game as well, Vinny, at the top. Like, jockeys, if you want to get the top jockey, that's fine. I remember, like, Barry Cash and Brave Inca back in the day being replaced by Tony McCoy. I felt very sorry for him, but at the same time, I could see why it happens. And you have to, if you're competing against the best, football players get sold and bought all the time. They get replaced by better players. They get replaced by better jockeys in this instance. So it is what it is. Yeah,
the other thing there is, as you say, not qualified necessarily to make a decision on whether someone gave a bad ride to a horse or whatever, but yet we all think we're qualified to tell you when it's a good ride. Every time someone rides a winner, wasn't that a fantastic ride? Like, so there has to be 2 sides to this coin, doesn't there? What do you make of it, Emma? You've ridden in races, of course, so you're more qualified than the other pair of us here to make judgment on some of these.
I'm not sure about that now. Look, I don't think anyone is above criticism as long as it's fair. People can take it way too far on social media at times, and that's kind of where the whole Kieran Shoemark thing kind of exploded. Like, I think every jockey is willing to take a bit of criticism, if it's fair, and they'll know themselves as well when they have done it wrong. But like, social media really blows things out of proportion. I think it was a few articles that were written during the week and people were reacting to it, and I think it's, look, he's obviously not having the best year, but the Gosden stable are really lacking in stars this year. Like, they're relying on 3 older mares, Inspiral, Emily Upjohn and Free Wind as their kind of marquee horses this year, and like, they're 5 and 6 year old mares. I mean, I don't think you can really blame Kieran Shoemark for it. And like Johnny said, I think Sheveley Park do have every right to kind of book, look, it's Ryan Moore. Like, there's not many riders in the world who could stand with Ryan Moore, and if they're thinking of maybe half thinking of retiring Inspiral, maybe they wanted to get Ryan Moore's opinion first or something, and transpired in the end it made absolutely no difference. She missed the break with Ryan as well, and not much she could do about that, I suppose. But look, it's definitely been blown out of proportion, and you'd feel a bit sorry for Kieran, right? Because people are kind of comparing him with Gosden riders at the past, but he doesn't have the same quality of horse to ride at all. And like, I think it's hard to judge him on what he's done so far this year when the quality he has is nothing in compared to what Frankie Dettori and others would have had in years gone by. So hopefully he'll stay in the job next year, and you could give a fairer judgment on his ability to ride in these Group 1s, because I think there isn't really a standout kind of big ride that I'd say he should have won on that, or he should have done something different. So it's too early days, really. He hasn't done enough wrong to be getting the criticism he's getting online, I don't think, anyway.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But of course, the other thing is, it's normally the horses we talk about. It's down to the horse and the ability of them. But then we had the likes of the Shergar Cup last weekend, where it's all about the jockeys, isn't it? Nothing to do with anything else but the jockeys. I couldn't believe it when looking at it. We know it's a team event and everything else, and there's supposed to be an international element to it. But some of the jockeys that even won races, I'd never heard of before. There was Rachel Veneker, no idea. And then there's Baurazan Murzabayev, familiar household name, lad from Kerry by all accounts. Like, where do we get them? I don't look. I'm sure they struggle to get some of these top names in. Obviously, Ryan Moore isn't going to ride in that. He's off all over the world, riding everywhere. So you're not going to get him to commit to it, perhaps. And the same with your likes of your Colin Keens and some of the other top riders from Ireland and the UK, for that matter, that you can't get them to compete with. But is it worth persevering with those sort of events, do you think, Emma?
Look, I actually used to be fairly interested in the Shergar Cup when I was, maybe 10 or 11. But back then there would have been fairly marquee jockeys riding in it. And like now, I mean, geez, I don't even think it turned on one race from Ascot on Saturday. Just absolutely no interest in it, because like you said, if it still was, the best riders from the US and from Japan and Europe coming over and competing against each other, it would have some bit of interest. And that's kind of the whole thing that's kind of probably propelling the Shergar Cup is the big names. But like this year, geez, like you'd be reading through the race card and it could be a race anywhere in the world, in some dirt track around anywhere. Like I honestly wouldn't have recognised anyone outside of maybe the ladies and the few of the Irish and British ones, obviously, but. Yeah, it was kind of losing its appeal a bit, and it's a pity because I think if it's done right and you do get the massive names from around the world, it would have big appeal. I'd say it's definitely a better idea than the racing league format in a way, because it can get young, probably appeals to young people more so than anything else. Like I said, when I was younger, I used to like watching the big Australian and American ladies coming over riding and a few other names like that. But now it kind of seems to have lost that element to it, really, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, like the Olympics on the last 3 weeks, and we're willing to cheer anyone on an Irish vest at this stage, doesn't matter what they're in or anything else, and we got some great crack out of it and really enjoyable few weeks. Is that the way to go, Johnny? Do you think just longer term with horse racing, something like that, to focus on the jockeys rather than the horses, because you can't guarantee the horses are going to turn up every day, so you can't do some sort of a championship thing with horses around the world trying to bring them together? Then you'll never get that. There's too much money at stake, I suppose, in the breeding side of those horses too. So you have to go pin your collar to the jockeys. But if you're not getting the top ones, it's very hard to get enthusiastic about it, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think people are motivated by having a bet. Really, racing won't survive without betting on it. And like this stuff, I don't know anyone in my circle of kind of talk to people in racing who would take any notice of the Shergar Cup. I'm not saying it's a bad idea, and it horses for course and all that. Maybe you're into it. And I like Johnny Velasquez coming over here. I thought he was meant to look like a fairly run of the mill jockey by the Irish jockeys. Maybe that was just a style thing or whatever. But I didn't think Johnny Velasquez looked like the rider that he obviously is in the States when he came to Nace in the Curragh. And I like seeing, we've had jockeys from various parts of the world even riding in Ireland in recent times, and it's cool to see. But the Shergar Cup, the Shergar Cup just doesn't really float my boat.
Yeah, well, then talking about jockeys, of course, we've got the next generation coming through. They were all at Dingle over the last 3 days, riding down there for the Dingle Derby. Was the culmination of it yesterday. But there's a picture we had on the site there. Dylan O'Connor. Did you see him going by the line in one of the races, standing up in the saddles with his arms out in a crucifix style, going by after winning one of the races? Like, if someone did that on the track, God knows what they'd be doing to them. There'd be some sort of sanction over it anyway. But you can do what you like, I think, down in the pony racing. But some big names have come out of that in the past. And of course, the big race was won by Keen Tubbs McNally. Those McNallys, they're always in the news. What did you make of it, Emma?
Yeah, it's actually something I really want to go down to. I've never been down to the Dingle races. I've actually never been pony racing, but it's definitely one on the list because everyone who kind of goes seems to say it's one of the highlights of the year. And like you said, it kind of seems to be where you find the next big jockeys. I think Paul Town and Jack Kennedy, they both won the Dingle Derby, and Tubbs McNally probably won't be too far behind him by the sounds of things. I think he had a great week down there. Few winners.
Who's going to play him in McNally the movie, though, is the big question.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah,
that would be a good one. Yeah,
but that available by all accounts.
That young lad you mentioned, Dylan O'Connor, he's the son of point-to-point rider Mikey O'Connor. He'd be a real good rider, I'd say. I think he actually might be nearly the age to go professional. I'm not sure will he go jumping or on the flat, but he'd be a proper jockey to follow for anyone when he gets going, because he's been riding pony racing for a long time. I wouldn't know him personally, but you'd see him riding out around. He'd be kind of local enough, and he'd be a good tough hardy rider. And his dad was a very good point jockey, so it's definitely probably worth following those names, because there'll be a few of them now in the next few weeks signing on with stables in Ireland, and they'll be very, very experienced for £10 claimers, so they're definitely ones to watch when they hit the track first time.
Well, I'd say lots of trainers to be watching them to see who they're going to pick up. Like Dylan Brown McMonigal was already signed up to Joseph O'Brien long before he left the pony racing circuit too. Anyway, last thing, have you a horse for me to follow from last week? I'll start off by giving you one, and it's probably the worst horse to follow to some extent. A horse called Sunchart, Andy Slattery. Really unusual, and that won a maiden hurdle the other day in Wexford. For a trainer to say he was disappointed after the horse won. The reason being, it's his fourth start for Sunchart, being placed the first 3 times over hurdles. Finally got its head in front, but he was saying from what this was doing at home and the type of horse it is, he thought it'd be way above this level, just winning a maiden hurdle in Wexford. He's talking now about going back to the flat. He thinks the horse has sort of lost its way over hurdles, but it'll be one to watch when it comes out over hurdles again, because I think it'll get a low enough handicap mark from what it's achieved so far. So there could be a day, and it's rated 107 on the flat. If it got something around that mark or a little bit higher over hurdles, there has to be a day and a big handicap somewhere along the way. Anyway, Emma, have you got one?
Yeah, I have to go to the Curragh Maidens. You kind of mentioned them earlier. Like the Coolmore won the three of them, I think, with sons and daughters of Ruth and Bassett, Justify and Frankel, I think the first one. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the Falling Snow. Donica's one. She was brilliant. She's out of winter and by Justify. The next big Coolmore stallion with the sounds of it, and she was just brilliant. She beat actually a daughter of Magical by Dubarry. Actually, sorry, the first winner was Dubarry, not
Dubarry, yeah.
But yeah, she beat a daughter of Magical by Dubarry, who had a one under her belt. Now, Falling Snow hadn't won, but we kind of highlighted it on our Friday show there that she had won a barrier trial, and you can see those results on Irish Racing, which is fair handy. But like Donica was kind of saying afterwards, she wouldn't be a filly till next year, and like just to beat the Ballydoyle filly who had the one under her belt, she still looked green, like, but she got there well at the line, and like Donica has done so well with the likes of Porta Fortuna this year. You'd imagine she'll be a real classic contender next year. Like with that pedigree, she could be bred to do anything really.
Yeah, fantastic. Johnny, what about you? What caught your eye?
Yeah, the just to mention that first maiden that was won by Delacroix, it was really extraordinary because the horse was way up on its back legs in the stalls. Ryan Moore was throwing it off it, and I was like, if I backed this horse at 2-5, I don't know I don't know how the exchanges reacted to it at the time, but like I would have definitely wanted the horse to be scratched, and I'm not a horseman, so I don't know how I would have what the horse was thinking, but he was really upset in the stalls. Ryan was thrown out the saddle. He was up in the air for like quite a long time, and then he went out and made all the running, and he's like out of Teppin by Dubois. He's one of these incredible pedigrees. Interesting. I just thought it was an interesting debate. Like, should this horse be running 2-5 shot? Who's very, very worked up in the stalls. But anyway, the horse I'm going to give you is Lake Victoria. Myself and Emma on our preview Friday, I was picking this horse up. She was one of two Frankels who ran basically neck and neck in that maiden first time out. Red Letter, the other trained by Ger Lyons. She's Frankel out of Quiet Reflection. She actually looked, it's almost a positive how green she looked in front of Newmarket in the Sweet Solara Stakes. Quite well back, was miles better than these. The second is raised 103 and looks pretty much worthy of that mark. She destroyed her proper Guineas prospect for next year.
Great stuff, yeah. All right, well, look, do gamble responsibly. If you are having a bet, make sure to subscribe to our channel, and we'll be all back again next week to have a look through whatever happens this week. All right, thanks for watching, and bye for now.